Okay, I guess we can start. So most of the people joined. So let's start our today webinar. In order to get some a little bit of knowledge of each other and introduce the background of ours. So, sorry, I would like to ask participants to give a short comments on where are you guys coming from, what kind of industry and what kind of professional background you have. So please spend a minute to vote on your screens, and we'll see where our group today stands. It will help us to tailor the discussion to to the demands and interests of participants. So please spend a few seconds to vote, and once most of us vote, we'll move towards the agenda. Please vote. Don't forget to click submit when you finish answering the questions. Guys, if you didn't vote yet, so please submit. We'll give a few more seconds to everyone to finish that, and we will continue to our discussions. Okay, thank you. Thank you for voting. Thank you for giving us some initial background information. Let me share to everybody where we're coming from. Well, we have the reasonable participants coming from the telecom industry, which is great news. And it looks for me that we are most equally split between marketing and the technology legs of areas of discussion. Okay, appreciate that. Let group meet each other. So let's move to the next the next page, the short agenda for today. So we'll be talking about the advertising technologies for the telecom industry. We'll be going through the use cases and the requirements and the possibilities for the telecom operators. The few ground rules how this webinar will work will go today. So let me please introduce the rules. So we'll make our best to fit this webinar within 60 minutes, hopefully a little bit shorter. The main vehicle will be giving the presentation and speech to you, and leave enough time for questions and answers from participants to make sure that we can address the areas of interest of everybody. So I would kindly ask as the moderator of this webinar to participate in polls like the one we started at the beginning. And once we finish the webinar, we definitely will appreciate the feedback on what was good, what was bad for you. So my last 5 cents, I would like to speak a few words about the overall webinar initiative run by NCC. So NCC, National Computer Corporation of UAE, is the daughter company of subsidiary of Russian National Computer Corporation. And our mission is to bring the high-tech technologies, the high-tech products, based on the experience of working and implementing and deploying it in various areas in Russia to the Middle East market. And in particular, the NCC Academy. This is the initiative where the series of webinars organized by NCC and our partners. The idea of these webinars is to give you kind of overview and introduction to the technologies, and if necessary, to schedule the detailed follow-up on a personal level to companies who want to dive into the technologies in more details. So having said that, my moderator role is almost done. And I would like to pass the microphone to the main speaker of today's webinar, to Ivan Mikhailov, the CEO of Advist. And Ivan will start from introducing himself. Ivan, don't forget to unmute, and welcome to stage.
Good morning to everyone. My name is Ivan Mikhailov, and let me please first of all tell you shortly about Advist team and our experience. Our key members were involved in developing advertising technologies in the Russian market for about from 10 to 15 years, and we have really great experience in this field. And more than 5 years ago, we were focused on developing advertising technologies for other participants on the market. So now 2 of top 4 mobile network operators in Russia use our platform to develop their advertising ecosystem. So let me please tell you about this experience, about these solutions, and about these technologies. First of all, what is advertising technologies? How does this ecosystem work, and so on? There are a lot of huge IT companies in this market, like Google, Facebook, WhatsApp, WeChat, and so on. They actively use first-party data of their users to allow advertisers to launch, manage advertising campaigns, and to get some clients, through digital channels, to increase number of active users, and so on and so on. And they developed these technologies for many years. They collect first-party data of their users for many years, and they are not interested in sharing these technologies and sharing with this data with anyone. So now current advertising ecosystem is untransparent. What does that mean? That between advertiser and user and client, there are too many intermediaries. So the price for the contact for showing advertising, video advertising, native advertising, display advertising to user is sometimes quite expensive. And if we're talking about local players on local markets, there are a lot of players who collect first-party data and who have a lot of knowledge about their customer database. And first of all, I'm talking about mobile network operators. They collect a lot of first-party data, and they can change this situation. They can offer to the market a new solution, new product, which allow to run and manage advertising campaign based on mobile network operators' data. Let me please tell you our vision about current situation in the world. So now there are some huge changes in users' behavior. A lot of people start use digital services, online services more actively. As we see, online audience of huge digital services, social media, and so on, doubled in first quarter of 2020. And a lot of businesses now trying to reach their audience using digital channels. And for most of them, that's only the way for now to reach their audience, to reach their users. So they are starting to spend more and more money. They are starting to share more marketing budget for digital channels. And on the other hand, businesses have to be more effective in these situations, because they cannot get so much revenue, so much income as before, because of global changing of the world. And we believe that these trends will continue after the pandemic. So a lot of businesses will spend much more money, much more marketing budgets in digital channels, and they need to get services with more cheap services, which allow them to reach their audience through online channels and make this more effective than just using current advertising ecosystem, than just using digital advertising services from huge IT companies. So we believe that this this is the real moment when mobile network operators can change some rules on this market, can give some added value to this market, and can create something new and really valuable for businesses and for real people on this market. So I would like to tell you about some business cases in Russia, what Russian mobile network operators do in Russia and what they get. So first of all, some of them have started to develop such ecosystems, such advertising digital services more than a couple of years ago, and they have successfully created some really new revenue stream for their businesses. And they can do that thanks to really a lot of first-party data which they have and which they collect from their users. And when they develop this advertising ecosystem, they do not need to share their data with anyone on the market. That's quite important for a mobile network operator. That's make their data more valuable, and they do not share this quite sensitive information with anyone. So they do not provide any extra information about users' behavior to external, to third parties, to huge IT companies, to anyone. So that's quite important. Slava, now it's your turn.
Thank you, Ivan. So before we move in analyzing the case and what was in there, I would like to ask participants, and especially the ones from telecom industry, to share a little bit of the background of how you currently work with data and what is your current technology or marketing stand with the big data. So do you, please look at the several questions on the poll and let us understand where current experience of our participants is located. So do you have the big data department or not yet? Are you using the technologies for data analysis? Do you integrate your big data with any external platforms? Do you sell the big data that you have to anyone? So give us a few votes and answers so everyone can understand where majority of our participants are with the big data as we have today. So mine, there's 4 questions. You may need to scroll if you have the PC. If you're viewing this webinar on the PC, you may need to scroll to see all the 4 questions and submit button. So please answer all of them and don't forget to click submit so we see the votes. Okay, so let's move on. Let's see what we have. Let me share the results of this poll to everyone. So, okay, cool. It looks like majority of people already have big data and technologies to analyze it. However, it looks like not everyone yet integrates this with external platforms or use this data to generate some money. Okay, Ivan, now we are all excited about learning what MTS have done. So please continue.
Okay, let's go. Let me tell you and explain how it works. So first of all, you have a lot of data. You have some big data technologies, and as we see, most of current audience of this webinar have these technologies, have this department who's responsible for these technologies. So what they do? First of all, they create some data segments using big data technologies. They analyze a set of their data. They divide this data by interests, by geo, by I don't know, by sex, gender, and so on and so on. So they define key data segments in this huge set of data, and they do all that stuff to allow other advertisers, other companies to use these segments for targeting, for digital targeting their advertising campaigns. Then they allow advertisers, allow other people to allow other companies to buy traffic, buy inventory using these data segments. How do they do that? They integrate their technologies, advertising technologies, with ad networks. Left part of the slide. They buy in these external ad networks a lot of inventory, a lot of traffic, and they at the same time they check for each potential advertising impression. They check which data segment contain this user and define which type of advertising campaigns they can show to this user. So, and then they sell this inventory to third party, to advertisers. In two words, they buy they buy cheap inventory, cheap traffic. They add really added value to this traffic. They add their big data, their data segments. They allow advertisers to use their data for targeting on this traffic. Because without this feature, this traffic is almost unuseful. And then they allow to create and manage advertising campaigns on this traffic, on this inventory, and this external ad networks using their data segments. So that's why they can sell this inventory by much higher price than they buy this inventory. That's a key point. And all this stuff they do in real time, thanks to advertising technologies which integrated with external ad networks, which integrated with their big data technologies, and which provide to advertisers something like personal account for creating and managing advertising campaigns and for running advertising campaigns, and spending their marketing budget. And why they can do that? They can do that because of real value of their data. So the idea is that a mobile carrier, a mobile network operator, has really quite valuable set of data. And first of all, as an example, let me tell you about real value of geodata. So if current huge IT companies like Google, Facebook, WhatsApp need to install some software as like mobile application on your smartphone, on user smartphone, need to get permission for knowing users' geoposition, and then they can use this geodata for segmenting their set of data. But on the other hand, mobile carrier does not need to install anything on mobile smartphone of user. They do not need to get any permission. They have all this data, geodata, thanks to their technologies. And if they have a lot of geodata, if they have a lot of this really unique location data, they can do some incredible things, as like they can analyze which point of interest have been visited by the user. They can segment user by interest. They can understand how user transfer from his home to his work by transport, by car, where he lives in in some really in some center of the city or something like that. So if they have a lot of geodata and they do not need any permission to get this data, then they can segment their data by interests. They can segment their people by interest, by a lot of specific information. And if they have all that information, then they create a list of data segments and allow other companies, allow other advertisers to use these data segments for targeting. And we know we have a partner in Japan, company named Sinara, and they do all this stuff for their clients, for mobile network operators and Wi-Fi operators in Japan. And as we see, this data can be so detailed. They can understand how user move through the building from one floor to another one. So they can understand which offices, which stores they visit in a trading center, for example. So they can analyze this behavior and they can really create quite well-targeted data segments. That's quite important. And I'm talking just about real-time location data. And of course, mobile network operators have a lot of other data. So let's go. And what kind of technologies they need to use this data? First of all, they need big data technologies and big data department to analyze all this data, to collect this data, to store this data, to segment this data. And as we see, most of mobile network operators have already developed big data technologies. They have their own databases, huge databases. A lot of data have been collected, segmented, divided by interests, and sometimes, as we see, it can be sold to third parties. Sometimes they share this data with other companies, and so on and so on. Why they do that? Because they do not have their own advertising technologies, which allow them to integrate this data with external advertising networks and to provide some specific advertising services to potential advertisers, to potential partners. So the second key technologies which mobile network operator should have to launch this kind of advertising services is advertising technologies. These technologies allows to buy and sell traffic with targeting on these data segments and do all this stuff in real time. So these technologies can be developed from the scratch by mobile network operator, or they can use ready-made platform solution which can be integrated inside their internal IT infrastructure to keep their data safe. The idea is that if you have started developing these technologies from the scratch, you need to spend about 2 or 3 years for development, about more than $5 million for all this stuff to get platform which is ready to be connected to external ad networks and to provide some specific advertising services to advertisers, to other companies. If you go with ready-made platform solution, you do not lose all. You can get a solution which is integrated with external networks and which is available for your clients, for other companies who can create, run, and manage advertising campaigns using these technologies. Let's go. Let me tell you shortly what is programmatic and why it's so expensive and so complicated to create this platform, create these technologies from the scratch. When anyone opens a website, mobile application, clicks on web page, if this website connected to external ad network external platform, this website inform that it has potential advertising impression to current user. Website inform external ad network, which use platform called supply side platform SSP, that they can show advertising to this user. When SSP gets this information, it launches a real-time advertising auction, which work exactly like auctions on stock exchanges, like New York Stock Exchange or London Stock Exchange. So SSP informs external platforms that it can sell potential advertising impression by, for example, 20 cents. And external DSP platform, demand-side platforms, who are interested in buying this advertising expression, who are interested in showing some advertising creatives to this user, they make a decision to join this auction and make some bids. So what do they need to make some bids? They need to check what they know about this user. So at the same time, they go to DMP, data management platform, for mobile network operators. The DMP is a big data, and check what they know about this user. They use unique advertising ID called cookie ID to define this user in their set of data and to understand what his interests and which data segments contain this user. When they know which data segments contain this user, when they know more about this user, so they know what kind of advertising they would like to show him. As an example, if someone who bought yesterday air tickets, for example, to some other country, open any website in internet and launch all this process, in this case, some specific DSP platforms, for example, DSP of some huge insurance company, can check the cookie ID of this user and understand that he bought an air ticket yesterday. So probably this user needs some insurance policy, and they launch advertising campaign to this user, offering him to buy insurance policy. So when DSP platforms know all this stuff, know all this information about user, they make bid and send some answers, bid response to SSP. For example, DSP1 makes a bid about 30 cents, DSP2 40 cents, and DSP3 decides that they do not want to make any bids because they are not interested in this user. When SSP gets all this information, all these bids, SSP, supply side platform, which runs an auction, choose the winner, get some ad creatives from the winner, from DSP platform, and send these advertising creative to the website and show this advertising creative to the user, which just 200 milliseconds ago opened website. So all this stuff, all these online advertising auctions must be done for less than 200 milliseconds. And all this stuff is made in a real time by DSP platforms, SSP platforms, and DMP platforms. So if you get a lot of inventory, for example, billions of ad impressions per month, you need to run a lot of auctions per second. So if you want to answer this bit and to send your advertising to users, you need to have really quite effective technologies which can answer, which can join all these advertising auctions, answer on these bits, and send creatives to the user. So that's why these technologies really needs really hard to be created, hard to be developed from the scratch. So if any company want to develop this kind of technologies from the scratch, they need to spend a lot of time. They need to hire a lot of professional developers who are focused on this kind of technologies. A lot of DevOps engineers who would help to create really effective IT architecture for running these technologies, especially when you have a lot of transactions, a lot of auctions per second. So let's go. This is something like a glossary, so you don't need to think about it. Slava, now it's your turn.
Thanks, Ivan. So before we again move into what it will actually take from the operator to implement all of this, so let me also ask participants to share what is your current standing, what is your current experience with the advertising technologies. So we talk about the big data, and most people have the big data department. So now, can you please share what do you currently use as the inventory for advertising? What kind of technologies you use for demand-side platform? So please share again what is existing experience, existing assets that you have on the advertising technology side of the business. So again, there's 3 questions. Make sure you see and scroll down if necessary to see all of them on the screen of your PC. So on the mobile, it should come one by one, so just page by page. So let's give a few more seconds for people who want to vote to share this. Okay, thank you so much. So let's see what we have and where do we stand as the different people. Okay, so it looks for me that a lot of people already have the advertising ecosystem, but not everyone. Okay, so as for the technology, probably follows the same pattern, and well, good to know that everybody already have the innovation department. So Ivan, your turn now. Everybody, thanks for sharing. So let's move next to see the business case in more details.
Okay, let's go. So let me tell you a bit more detailed information about business cases, Russian business cases, what Russian mobile carriers do to create this kind of advertising ecosystem. First of all, what they need in top lines. They need some software as like DMP, big data technologies, and DSP advertising technologies. They need some human resources. They need some people who would integrate, develop all this stuff, who would negotiate with advertisers, negotiate with the networks, who would collect and segment all this data, and so on and so on. And they need some hardware for running this platform, running this new advertising ecosystem, new service for advertisers. And of course, they need something like go-to-market plan to define when they launch development process, when they launch integration process, when they start segmenting their data, and when they are ready to offer this new digital service for external advertisers, external companies. First of all, about software. So usually, mobile network operator have some DMP, some big data technologies for data analysis. So, so I would like to tell you a bit more detailed information about another part, about DSP for buying and selling inventory. As we see in Russia, most of mobile network operators, they try to use these technologies for a couple of years in a different ways. Some of them worked with some external DSP platform by SaaS model, and they spent a lot of time for integration, spent a lot of time for, how to say, for creating a specific way for sharing their sensitive data with this external SaaS platform. And anyway, they do not manage this platform and developing of this platform in real life. Some of them tried to create this platform from the scratch, and they spend a lot of money and a lot of years for this process. And as we see, most of them made a lot of real challenges on this way. So they spend a lot of time, and they spend much more money and much more budgets for doing and developing this platform from the scratch than if they go with something like ready-made solution. The second point is human resources. So most of mobile network operators have their own big data technologies, and they have their own big data department who manage these technologies, who analyze these technologies, creates data segments, finds the best way for data segmentation, and so on and so on. And what they need advertising technologies department, which should manage advertising technologies, which should manage development process, which should manage integration process, and so on and so on. So as we see, they need someone like head of advertising technologies department, one or two developers for developing some specific stuff, specific features, not the platform from the scratch, but make some updates, make some integration with internal software, with external networks, and so on and so on. And something like traffic manager who check some ideas, hypotheses, who help advertisers have external clients to run their campaigns, to create their campaigns, and so on and so on. And as we see, the real challenge for mobile network operators in Russia is to get these people on board, because they need to hire them somewhere. They need to they need to get really good, quite experienced people who know what is programmatic technologies, what is advertising technologies, how it works, who know the market, and who know how to play on this market. Because if you would like to be integrated or connected to some really huge advertising networks, external advertising networks who buy its inventory, you need to spend a lot of time. And most of time you need to, not for technical integration to this external ad network, but you need to spend it for negotiation with this external ad network. If we're talking about, for example, Google ad network, you need to spend more than 6 to 12 months for negotiations, even if you're a huge company with a huge budget, and then get something like, please wait a bit, please get more clients, please get more advertisers, and then we would be ready to integrate your system with ours. Totally the same situation with a lot of other huge players on this market, is like Russia. If we're talking about Russia, it's another one, huge IT company, Yandex. So if you would like to be connected to Yandex, you have to spend a lot of time as well. And if you have a person who know this market, who has spent a lot of time by networking on this market, they can help you to move forward on this market. They can help you to not to make some error decision and so on and so on. So that's quite important to get the right person for managing all this process, for managing these technologies, and for developing this kind of services inside mobile network operator. And of course, you need some hardware, some specific hardware for running these digital services. So I can tell you some information based on using the AdWiz platform. So if you have the AdWiz platform, you need just about 12 servers for serving 2 billion ad impressions per month. So, but sometimes some numbers can be a little bit different. So if you have another one platform, you need more servers for doing the same thing, and so on and so on. I wouldn't go in details what kind of services and what kind of hardware you need. So if you are interested, I can share this information with you after the webinar. So an example, list of services for serving digital advertising service with which can serve 100,000 auctions per second. So how many servers and what type of servers you need to run so many online advertising auctions. And of course, go-to-market plan. So let me tell you shortly how it looks, how it usually looks like. So you need to spend about from 1 to 2 months for, if we are talking about ready-made platform solution. So you do not need to spend a lot of time for developing this advertising service, advertising software from the scratch. Then you need about 1 or 2 months for deployment this solution to your internal IT infrastructure. At the same time, you need to start the process of data segmentation for targeting. probably I believe that if you have your own big data department, if you have your own big data technologies, so you have a list of data segments. So you just need to define the most usual data segments, a list from 20 to 30 data segments, for example, which can be used by external advertisers, first of all. Then you need to spend about from 1 month to 2 months to integrate DSP solution with your internal DMP, with your big data. And then to launch a process of connecting your DSP to external ad networks. So it takes a lot of time. It takes sometimes it takes just 1 month or 2 months. Sometimes it takes more than 6 months if you would like to be connected to some huge external ad networks like Google or Yandex or BitSwitch, for example. It depends on this person, head of advertising technologies department. So if he can negotiate effectively with all these external ad networks, if he knows who is responsible for doing this integration, for signing these contracts, then he would help to make all this stuff faster than 6 months. So that's quite important, guy. And then you just need to launch advertising campaigns, and just in 6 months or 7 months, less than 12 months, you can get some new revenue, get new revenue stream, new marketing budgets from external advertisers. So they would pay you for, and they would buy your inventory with your data segments for targeting, for launching, for managing their digital advertising campaigns. Okay, so the idea is that when you integrate and develop and launch this digital ad service, you can also use all its benefits. So you can also use this service for running your own advertising campaigns, for promoting your own digital services like online TV, your some specific products, and so on and so on. And here is some numbers showing how it works. So if you have your own advertising ecosystem, if you have direct connections to advertising networks, you can run your own advertising campaign and for promoting your own services, digital services, quite more effective than you do that before. This is a real numbers and real case. So when mobile operators buy video advertising before they integrated their own DSP platform, they spent about $5 per CPM. And then when they integrated their own DSP, they spent just $1 per CPM. So they spent 6 times less than they spent before. That means that for the same marketing budget, they can get much more, 6 times more ad impressions of their advertising. And of course, in this case, they would get more users, more clients, and increase their ARPU than their competitors. So that's the idea. So if you have such ecosystem, you can use it as well as an external advertiser. So that's it. Thank you for your attention. Slava, now let's go.
Ivan, thank you very much. Just if I understood you right, if you try to summarize all of that, so there's a huge opportunity for telecom operators by adding the advertising technology to existing big data assets that they have. And this, first of all, create the substantial revenue stream, which is the new money coming to the telecom operator, and as the additional bonus to that, so the operator can benefit from spending his own advertising budget through the same system. But the main idea here is that there is a new revenue, first of all, in the new market segment where the telecom can earn money from. Hope I got it right.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Ivan, again. And I believe now it's time for address questions and answers. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, if you have not submitted your questions, please do it now. And Ivan will be taking these questions from Q&A one by one. I would also like to launch the, I would say, the last survey for this webinar. So, what is your impression? How this webinar was to you? So, Ivan, please start answering questions. Participants, if you have questions, please add them and send them to Q&A session. And before you guys leave from webinar, we kindly ask you to fill the survey to help us to understand how effective this webinar was for you. Thank you very much, Ivan. Please.
Okay. First question is, what is the main need and main advantage of the development of MNOs for the countries of Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia? And can Russia offer some unique technologies for their creation? What is the main need and the main advantage? The idea is that you can launch some specific digital service for external advertisers, which allow you to create from nothing new revenue stream, totally new revenue stream based on effective usage of data. Because if you just sell the data to external companies, to some IT companies or some other companies, of course, unpersonalized data, you cannot earn a lot of money, but you have a lot of data, and you're looking for some ways how to use this data effectively for your own needs and for earning some money as well. And when you buy and sell inventory using this data, and when you allow to external advertisers to buy and sell inventory, first of all, buy, of course, inventory using this data, you can get much more money for this data than if you just sell this data. Because in this case, you get access to marketing budgets of external advertisers. And they get really quite valuable data. In a lot of cases, this data is more valuable than data of huge IT companies, because mobile network operator knows people in the country and have a lot of data about their behavior, and in most cases, they even have more data about their behavior than huge IT companies. So that's something like a win-win model for all sides. Mobile network operator get new way for using its data. Advertisers get new independent digital advertising service for running and managing advertising campaigns. New set of data, quite valuable data. And so if you manage all this process, your pricing model could be really better than pricing model of your competitors, of huge IT companies who are not interested in changing this market for now. But mobile network operator is a company, is a player who can really change this market and offer some new services on this market. And the second part of this question, and can Russia offer some unique technologies for this creation? So that's the idea of the webinar, to tell you a bit more, to tell other companies a bit more about those technologies which Russian companies use in Russian market. And of course, these technologies can be shared and can be offered for companies in other regions, because all these advertising market use the same open protocol, open RTB real-time bidding protocol, which allows to be integrated to external ad networks, to external and internal DMP systems, and to go with all this programmatic stuff. That's it.
Thank you.